America's greatest natural wonder, shaped by the Earth's most savage forces. Water battles rock in an eternal struggle. Nature is laid bare. Ancient secrets are revealed. And the story of America lies etched in stone. The Grand Canyon. For all this beauty, all this grandeur, Mother Nature has paid a heavy price. The Grand Canyon was carved out of 2 billion years of catastrophe. The clues to its traumatic past are etched into the very rock. To read them takes a new breed of scientist. One willing to go to extremes to get answers. The canyon is a mystery that can't be solved in the lab. To crack it, you have to live it. The Grand Canyon slices through the Colorado Plateau in northern Arizona. At its extremes, it's 18 miles wide and 1 mile deep. Fall here, and it would take 40 seconds before you hit bottom. From top to bottom, harsh beauty. In the deep recesses, at the canyon's very heart, lies a clue to the birth of America itself. Like everything else in the continent's history, this birth was traumatic. "240 miles down the Colorado River and several days' journey through treacherous rapids lies the dark heart of the canyon, the foundation this whole landscape is built on. The rocks are unlike anything else on the river. To find out what they mean, geologist Carl Karlstrom has teamed up with climber Will Gadd.
Okay, Carl. I think you're gonna like this. It's just
These beautifully twisted rocks are called the Vishnu Schist.
Oh, you got it. That's the crux right there.
The key to the canyon's past, they're some of the oldest rocks in America.
How old would this be? How old am I hanging on to right here?
Well, these rocks were deposited on the Earth's surface 1.75 billion years ago. Though that's not quite half the age of the Earth, but they're almost 2 billion, but not quite.
2 billion years ago, this was a barren wasteland. Not a single plant or animal graced the Earth's surface. But the Earth was far from dead. It was restless. Islands were formed. Continents split as the Earth's crust pulled and pushed them across the planet's surface. A collision was inevitable. In the path of an advancing landmass lay a chain of mountainous islands. In the geological pileup, the islands came off worst. The rocks were pushed miles underground and heated to over 1,200 degrees. So hot, the rocks were transformed. Under pressure, they buckled and melted, their crystals realigned. Signs of that violence remain in the swirling patterns of this dark rock.
And so, you can see that these rocks were actually flowing. And you can see the evidence. They're just flowing along here, these nice little bands and these squiggles. And there's a whole indication these rocks are flowing, but they're flowing like taffy, or pudding, or one of these solids that's still plastic, still like with candle wax.
These rocks have been through hell. But in doing so, they laid the foundations for America, home of the Grand Canyon. This painful birth created extraordinary landscapes that are now lost. But hidden in the rocks are faint reminders. Will Gadd makes a risky climb out of the base of the canyon. He's unroped on loose rock. On his way up, he's looking for clues to one of the world's great geological mysteries. It's Mother Nature's version of a missing persons file. Here, the sandstone is completely different from the rock layer below. And it's 1 billion years younger. 1 billion years of rock has literally disappeared. 1/4 of Earth's history, gone. It's known as the Great Unconformity. A layer of rock missing from every twist and turn along the 270 miles of the canyon. "50 miles upstream, geologist Larry Coates searches for the same feature. He's worked out why 1 billion years has disappeared.
A huge amount of time that's missing. We know that from both laboratory measurements that we can apply to the granites underneath, and we know that from fossil evidence in the rocks above.
After years of study, he can see through this gap in the geological record into a lost world. It was dominated by one of the mightiest landmarks the world has ever known. Mountains taller than Everest, bigger than any mountain range found on Earth today. For millions of years, these mountains covered hundreds of thousands of square miles of what is now the United States. So where did they go? Standing tall in the middle of the young America, they were exposed to the full fury of the elements. Lashed by jet stream winds, cracked by sun and ice, these towering peaks were battered down to humble sand. All that's left is a ghost in the stones. The canyon holds still more secrets. Each telling of worlds more extraordinary than the last. The Grand Canyon. A scientific mystery 270 miles long. In this spectacular desert, nothing is as it seems. The Grand Canyon isn't even a single environment, but a universe of worlds piled one on top of the other. Each layer of rock within the canyon tells another part of our planet's astonishing story. At the very bottom of the canyon lies the first chapter in the story of America. Above, dark shales and brighter limestone. 550 million years old. They date back to an explosion of life on Earth. The red stone, 300 million years old. All that remains of a humid, fern-covered jungle. Creamy yellow sandstone from 260 million years ago, when the Earth turned into desert, almost wiping out all life. And at the very top of the canyon lies the last chapter, and the most mysterious layer of all. Here, geologist Larry Coates is gearing up to take the plunge into the most surprising period of the canyon's history. He's searching for evidence of a very different America, one that existed around 240 million years ago. And to find it, he must hang a mile above the river. Every foot that Larry descends takes him another 400,000 years back in time.
So this is the very uppermost layer, the youngest layer of rock that's exposed in the Grand Canyon.
And what he finds is the last thing you'd expect from a gash in the desert.
You can actually see this quite clearly here. There are fossils of small sea creatures. There's some of these that are identifiable. We find sponges, much like sponges that grow in the oceans today. We have brachiopods, sort of like a clam with a ridge in the middle.
Larry is a mile above a river in the middle of a desert, 1,000 miles from the coast. How did seashells get here? "240 million years ago, America was unrecognizable. The whole western United States was underwater. It lay at the edge of a vast ocean that once contained all the seas in the world. Known as the Pantalasic Ocean, this was the forerunner of today's Pacific. A shallow sea teeming with life. Fish of all shapes and sizes darted through this tropical paradise. Hunted by real sea monsters. Giant reptiles, larger than anything else in the ocean. These very creatures were swimming in what will become the Grand Canyon, and they have left their mark. When they died, they sank to the bottom of this restless sea. Over millions of years, sediments buried them, crushing and compressing them until they turned into limestone. Their fossils can still be found. Larry is standing on their remains. This was an ocean floor. Yet today, these same rocks are found 6,000 feet above sea level, in the middle of a desert. Something traumatic happened here. Will Gadd and geologist Mika Jessup will retrace the epic journey of the continent.
Yeah.
As America rose from the seas of the prehistoric Earth.
Steep. Oh, yeah.
They've come to a splinter of rock stuck in the middle of nowhere. Castleton Tower. 400 feet of vertical stone. A last shard of a lost landscape, millions of years old. This spire holds the secret of how ancient forces then transformed America. The Grand Canyon has witnessed the planet's most violent events. Mountains have risen and fallen. Worlds have drowned and grown anew. But the most extraordinary example of what it's been through can be seen in Castleton Tower. It records a radical change in landscape when titanic forces wrenched America into the shape we see today. Ace climber Will Gadd and geologist Mika Jessup will have to climb through time to get to the top, where a vanished world awaits them.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, let's get it on here. We're at 1,700 meters, about
6,000 feet. Come up a couple thousand feet off the valley floor out there, I guess. About 400 feet to go.
Up here, exposed to wind and water, much of the stone has been worn away.
Yeah, there you go.
This spire survives because it's exceptionally rugged. A streak of hard white calcite runs through it, protecting it from erosion over millions of years. The rest of the spire is made of sandstone, formed more than 200 million years ago in a barren land. When the whole world was joined in one supercontinent, dominated by a desert. Here, sand piled up to form huge dunes. These were buried and compressed over millennia to form vast beds of sandstone, containing iron from the Earth's core. When this iron comes into contact with air, it literally rusts. It gives this rock its distinct red color. But this ancient desert once lay near sea level. So what lifted all this up so high? It was a collision between the ancient Pacific and North America. Around 80 million years ago, these two tectonic plates clashed so hard, part of America was rammed up into the air. This same event also gave modern America its distinctive backbone, the Rocky Mountains. Castleton Tower is a relic of this upheaval, a piece of the plateau that was formed when the land was pushed 3 miles up.
Come on up.
Wow, good route, eh?
Let's go. Super good. That was super fun.
Wow. What a view.
Not bad, eh?
But the story wasn't quite over. Forces stirring deep within the planet had one more shock in store for America. As the plates slowed down, the continent tilted to the west. Water melting off the Rockies flowed in one direction. Smaller streams came together to form a river, the Colorado. This is the river that would tear its way through the earth to form the Grand Canyon, but not without help. Raging water would join forces with extreme heat. The combination would be catastrophic. Carved in the heart of a continent, far from any coast, the Grand Canyon is a place of extremes. The sun burns through a desert sky to bake the earth and scorch the air. The heat is brutal. The bottom of the canyon can reach 120 degrees. Yet in this hostile landscape, the Colorado has achieved something that larger rivers have not. The Amazon, the Mississippi, the Nile, none have carved anything so spectacular. But the Colorado River hasn't done it on its own. It had help from the kind of extreme weather that only a desert can command. Deep in the heart of a canyon lie the first clues to the complex cycle of erosion. It begins on a microscopic level. Even a tiny stream can bite through rock. Particles in the water act like sandpaper, wearing away the stones grain by grain. Water can also dissolve the minerals that hold the grains together. This red rock is particularly vulnerable. Iron between the grains is already rusting, making the water's task easier. But this isn't the whole story. Because how can gradual erosion turn a tiny ravine like this into a Grand Canyon? These mysterious wedged boulders are clues to what happened. Evidence of one of the most powerful forces in nature. The violent flip side of this desert's weather. Flash floods. Yet how can floods happen here, in this parched corner of Arizona? The answer lies on the other side of the continent, down in the Gulf of Mexico. Every summer, the Gulf heats up by 30 degrees. Huge amounts of moisture are evaporated up from the ocean into towering clouds. The moisture-laden air from the Gulf is then sucked in over the desert. When it reaches the high land of the Colorado Plateau, it rises and cools. Water droplets condense and fall in torrents. It's known as the North American monsoon. %70 of the region's rain falls in just 2 months, July and August. The combination of sudden rain and sun-baked land is a recipe for destruction. The dry land can't soak up the deluge. It turns parched ground into a floodplain. Water rushes across the desert with tremendous force and funnels into canyons. The narrow ravines multiply its power 100-fold. Raging water tears rock from the canyon walls, smashing it along the floor. This is erosion in overdrive. In just a few minutes, a flash flood can turn a trickle in a gully into a 10-foot torrent of water. In the mighty struggle between rock and water, water always wins. Flash floods don't just carve the canyon. They hold the key to the Colorado's most deadly feature, rapids. Every day, over 800 million gallons of water flow through the Grand Canyon, crashing over 160 rapids.
Water moving really fast, really big waves. Get smashed up against the rock, and then worst case you end up drowning, which I don't want to do.
But why does water churn into these fearful torrents? The answer is here by the river's edge. Next to every rapid is a side canyon. In the summer, monsoon flash floods bring rocks and boulders down these canyons and dump them in the river. The debris squeezes the Colorado into a narrower channel. Above the rapid is a deceptively calm pool. At the rapid itself, the pressure from above squeezes the water through like a jet, The effect of high velocity and a narrow channel is so extreme it changes the physics of how water behaves, entering a state that scientists call supercritical flow. This water pouring over a boulder creates a back wave, and a treacherous hole forms in the water. It can suck rafters or kayakers to their deaths. The power is so phenomenal. This one stretch of rushing water could supply energy to 12,000 homes. This whole landscape has been shaped by sudden, violent floods. But in the history of the canyon, one flood stands out above all others. When the primal forces of nature unleashed a hell on Earth. It took a clash of continents to make the Colorado River. It took the fury of nature to carve the Grand Canyon. But the canyon holds another secret. A record of apocalyptic violence that struck hundreds of thousands of years ago. The first clues are mysterious rocks that jut into the river. These are not ordinary rocks. They're made of lava. "200 miles from the nearest active volcano. They shouldn't be here." Most volcanoes form near the edge of continents. The Grand Canyon lies in the heart of America. So where did the lava come from? The answer is what geologists call a hot spot. Beneath the crust is a chamber of super hot molten rock. Hot enough to melt a hole through 20 miles of stone. Around 600,000 years ago, a movement in the Earth's crust allowed molten magma to punch through to the surface as a chain of volcanoes. Lava battled water for supremacy in a boiling inferno. It cooled to form a series of natural dams. 2,000 feet high. The largest spanned the entire canyon. Behind the dam grew a lake around 90 miles long. Over 12 billion tons of impatient water. All of it suddenly crashed down the canyon just a few hours. The most catastrophic flood in its history. Volcanic rocks in the base of the canyon are remnants of those ancient dams. The last volcanoes erupted in the canyon nearly 1,000 years ago. But the hot spot itself still lurks under Arizona. It's been dormant for the last 1,000 years, but it could erupt at any time. For 2 billion years, the forces of extreme heat helped create and then shape the canyon. But another primal force is still at work here. A force so awesome, it's tearing down the canyon before our eyes. The Grand Canyon is home to some of America's oldest rocks. A journey to its interior gives a unique glimpse into the Earth's past. This place is an extraordinary archive of geological wrath. Its vast depth has been shaped by the power of fire and water. One more force helped build the canyon. Ice. In the middle of a scorching desert, what has ice got to do with its formation? The sheer size of the canyon has created a freakish combination of hot and cold. It's a mountain turned inside out. And as on any mountain, top and bottom are worlds apart. In this case, separated by 4,500 feet. Temperatures at the rim can often be 30 degrees colder than at the base. Every winter, brooding storm clouds blow eastward from the Pacific Ocean. As they reach the Colorado Plateau, they are forced upwards. The rising air cools. If it reaches freezing point, moisture in the clouds turns to ice and snow and falls on top of the canyon. On the edge of the canyon, geologist Carl Karlstrom searches for evidence of the power of ice on the canyon rim. Cracks like these are caused by an astonishing process.
During the winter months, when it's warm during the day, the water would melt and percolate down through this crack. Then at night, it gets cold and the water freezes. As it freezes, it expands.
The pressure is so strong. Even a tiny sliver of ice can loosen a ton of rock. Freezing water expands by 9%, forcing the crack apart. Every winter, this process repeats along the length and breadth of the canyon. The canyon is widening before our eyes, one block at a time. Water, fire, and ice created this canyon, but they're also tearing it down. And this isn't just history. The forces that created the canyon are still alive and still shaping America today. As the forces of erosion continue their work over tens of millions of years, the canyon will eventually wear away. One day it will resemble the plain that stood here 80 million years ago, before the Rockies were born. The story of the Grand Canyon is as awesome as the vistas it has created. Born of violent geology, it's a witness to the eternally changing face of the planet. Written into its mile-high walls is the history of America. A natural monument, 2 billion years in the making. And it will still be taking our breath away for millions of years to come.